Another student was kind enough to send in their model to ask a question about why they were not able to push-pull this window through this space on this wall. So this is from homework 3, and I'm just looking at what my issue is with this window and why when I open this up am I not able to push-pull this through this wall. So the wall has been highlighted just to illustrate which wall is not working, and this has also been highlighted in blue to show me which window is not push pulling through. So when I check and I start push pulling through, what I can see automatically right from the get-go is that as I try to push pull this through, I can tell that this face is not on a parallel, or this shape I should say is not on a parallel face. When I did a little bit more investigating and got a little closer to this, and I mean pretty close, I could see here that this section is not directly on the face. So if I get my tape measure out and I click from this point to this point, I can see that I've actually got a 1/16 of an inch difference. So I'm really, with my guides, when I'm this far away, there's no way to tell that. But when I get really close, I now know that my guides are 1/16 of an inch off of this yellow face. So if I go back over here and look at this corner, I can see that this corner is also slightly off. And if I do this check here, I can see that at this point I'm 1/8 off. So as I drag a guide out in this direction, chances are I'm dragging it out, and I don't know where or why the 1/16 changes to the 1/8, but I also have a feeling that it has to do with this connection from this point to this point. Bottom line, I feel like this is not a parallel face to, or this line is not parallel with that line, and that's what's creating this issue. And because this is off, when I pull a guide from this point, I'm actually pulling something that's going to end up being 1/16 or an eighth, excuse me, away. Let's just check here and see what this is. So in this situation over here, if I click from this point to this point, let's try this again. Click. It's so small that it's not even registering because the setting in my SketchUp is, stops at about probably 1/16 or 1/32 of an inch. So at that point there, it's so small it's not even going to tell me what the difference is. But I can see that it's off. So what I'm going to do is first I'm just going to open this up and show you what's going on again. So I'm not able to push pull this shape in. And in fact, let's go ahead and delete this wall and see what's going on. So what I have is I have a 3D shape in here that's actually probably already drawn on the inside. And if I push pull it away, it's a shape that's been turned inside out, and so it's now an additional 3D shape. So let's just, again, this is going back to what we did in the video just before this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the whole thing and delete it. And I'm going to Shift D delete my guides because those are not helping me either. I'm also going to turn off my material because this is going to get in my way. So let's go ahead and draw a guide from this point to this point. And now I'm going to go check and see how that matches up over here. I can see that that's actually not quite meeting up. Can you see it? Can you see that it's just off enough? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to grab this line, and I'm going to pull it forward just to get it started along the green axis, and then I'm going to snap it back till it's perfectly on that line. I'm going to do the same thing with this point here. I'm going to do another guide, and I'm going to go from this guide to that point, which is a solid 7 inches, and I want to go verify on this point that that's matching up. And again, I can see that it's just off a little bit. So what I have to do is I have to open this one up, select this line, and move it forward, and then snap it back until it touches that intersected line, and close. Now when I draw my line from point to point, and bring it back over to this edge, drawing all the way around. When I open it up, when I double click to select it, G to group it, open it up by clicking on it and push pull it up to match. Now when I draw my guides, let's go ahead and hide this first. So we're going to hide this wall, and we're going to look back at the textures, and I'm going to draw a guide along this floor and pull it along till I get to that point and unhide. Now I can snap easily to that point and to that point, double click, and draw my rectangle on the face and push pull through. So that was another example of an instance where it was easier to just delete the guide. But if you ever find that you are not able to push-pull an opening through a face, it's a very, very, very common issue. So don't feel like you're going crazy. It's very possible that either one of two things is happening. You've got a set of guides. Let me just do this where I draw the guides here like this. And I'm using the lines of the face and drawing right on the face. But now I'm going to select those guides and I'm going to move them out in space on the green axis 0.01. So they look to me like they're still on the face, but they're actually not. So when I open this up and draw a rectangle using those guides, what's happening, if you see your rectangle when you draw it and it's purple like this, that means it's not sitting on the face. And if you're able to select it and push-pull it through, what you're really doing is you're really push-pulling a new box through that first face. And it's cutting into it because it's open, but it creates this weird little extra piece on the outside. So it basically like intersects with it, but it's not giving you what you want. So you know right away if you draw a rectangle using your guides and you get this purple face that something's wrong. I'm going to go ahead and close that and then Shift D to delete the guides. Now let's move this line 0.01 back in space. So it's really, really small of a, like this is now no longer a parallel shape, but I'm still going to be able to draw my rectangle on this face. And I'm still going to be able to pull it. Oh, actually, in this case, no, I won't. Because now when I draw a rectangle, it wants to snap to the correct axes. So this rectangle's no longer speaking with this face anymore because this is not a parallel face. So that's another issue that happens, is if this is not a parallel face, you're going to run into trouble. So what I would do whenever you get a situation like this, especially when you're starting from scratch like this, is I would just delete it. In the weeks to come, in the final 2 weeks, as we get into a couple more of the more difficult situations, the more difficult techniques, I'm going to show you how you can cut a hole through something that's curved or cut a hole through something that's at an angle. So this won't be an issue for you anymore. But at this point, let's just worry about cutting holes through things that are parallel and basic boxes and parallel faces. There is a way to cut through. If I have a wall that's curved, or if I have a wall that's squished at an angle, there is a way to cut through that. But we don't want to get into that just yet. So thank you for sending in that example, and hopefully this clears things up.